Hi, I am Osman. I'm a master level energy healer specializing in terminal illnesses and critical care recovery. I'm also an advanced level yoga and meditation teacher. Please be sure to visit my website yogawellness786.com for more information on my services, and be sure to consult with a qualified and a licensed medical practitioner in your locality if you have any medical conditions. Our therapies are natural based and not a replacement for medical treatment. So I wanted to speak on the principle of following your heart in making all the decisions or major life decisions. So some people say that you need to weigh the pros and cons, and you need to get advice from others, and to respect people who have knowledge, especially with elders and family members and parents or elder siblings, or your professor in the university, or authoritative figures when they start saying, influencers, people of great influence and authority, when they start saying things and influencing people, and people generally want to follow those things, but they're not so sure. So you have to remember, once you're an adult, and I mean once you are 18, right? I don't know which part of the world you come from, but once you are 18 and over, you should start making your own decisions. Yes, I mean, people can tell you, but or give you suggestions, or even may try to control you, right? But bottom line, do what you feel in your heart to be correct. So does this mean that you're going to always feel that which is right? No, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but you followed your heart. It is a mistake that you needed to make on your own, and it is something that you needed to learn. If it is something really strongly in your heart, because your heart will pull and gnaw at you, and you're not going to be okay or happy until you follow what is in your heart. There are so many people who wants to live life in a box, and they're following the general rules and patterns, and then they reach their 30s and 40s, and then they ask, why is life so miserable? Why is life so difficult? Why am I not happy? Right? Of course you're not going to be happy. You never followed your heart, right? When you wanted to become a hippie and said, no, I don't want to become hippie, I don't want to leave this, I need to do this because my parents say it's good for me and it makes sense, makes logical sense. No, but your heart didn't want to follow that, and you followed something that was thrown upon you and convinced you from an external source, but not something from intrinsically, that a decision that you made from your heart. So yes, what I'm saying is very controversial, and it's not something that most experts is going to agree on. But do what you feel is correct. Also, don't throw caution to the wind, right? Always. There are some things that are very dangerous. When you try it, you can't just get out of it, especially with something, that are some things that are extremely addictive, right? Like drugs and certain habits, or, promiscuity. You're going to risk getting AIDS, and or even worse, into certain habit patterns, and where you are harming others and bringing harm to yourself, because you join certain groups of people that you want to join, and they get involved in certain activities, criminal activities. I'm not stopping you from doing it. I mean, that's where your heart is, and your heart is set into that, and you know your circumstances. But try, within the information available to you, to do some research before you make life-changing decisions. And if someone says no, don't do it, and your heart is saying yes, right? Try to investigate why they say no, before dismissing it and just following your heart blindly. So spend some time, investigating it. So from my own personal perspective, from a yoga sciences perspective, we are all here to evolve as people. We have certain inherent, desires and wishes that until it is satisfied, we're not going to feel satisfied, right? We need to satisfy these things that are very deeply rooted in us, and sometimes you don't know why it's there. No one taught it to you. It could be an evolutionary memory or a genetic memory, that's embedded in you, that you need to, fulfill it and achieve it, and to gain some. As long as it's not going to create long-term detrimental harm or is not life-threatening to you, right? So I would say go for it. I mean, traditionally, when I wanted to leave medical university, all my colleagues came in and said, I'm making the most stupid decision. It is a guaranteed career, guaranteed that, I'm going to be successful and, financially, independent and so forth. But very deep in my heart, I wanted to, I felt that this is not the only way, that one could make money. And one could make money, but what's the point of having all the money if you're not happy in your heart at what you're doing? And I didn't want to follow it. And then after that, I tried to give it a bash again, but half-heartedly, right? And it doesn't work out, right? And do I have any regrets? And I told myself at that point that when I'm going to make that decision, I'm not going to have regrets later in my life. Until this day, I haven't had regrets. I've been in, many relationships, where unfortunately it had to end. It was very heartbreaking, in the beginning. I didn't like it to end, it wasn't something that I would have wanted, but unfortunately, the other person didn't want to continue. And you can't force someone, and something you have to accept and, move on with. But you grow from these experiences, because this is where your heart says you want something, but the other person is not prepared to, meet you halfway, or agree, because it's going to require an agreement or cooperation of a second person. And if you're unable to get that cooperation, then you have to respect that, because as much as you have to live and achieve what your heart wishes, you have to also respect what the other person's heart, dislikes, right, and does not wish, and move on, accept these things. But from a yoga sciences point of view, you're going to halt your evolution, if you don't satisfy, many of the things that are in your heart that you can safely, and also to some extent there could be some, level of danger, but going in with your eyes open and make sure that, you can come out of it. But when it comes to drugs, I feel this is drugs and alcohol. It's not something that you can just go in, because you're going to go into something that perhaps you're going to never be able to come out of, no matter how much you want to, and perhaps it's going to destroy your life. It's destroyed many lives, right? We wouldn't say destroying the majority of people's life, but there is a significant number of people, and who knows, even if it's a fraction of a percentage, who knows that whether you are belonging to that fraction of a percentage or to the majority. It's a 50-50 chance that you belong to the fraction or to the majority, right? So everything is still 50-50 anyway, right? So have that caveat in mind when you're doing it. But especially from a yoga sciences point of view, yoga is a tool that helps to fast forward your evolution as a person. And if you do not practice the tool, using the tools of yoga, you're still going to evolve, but you're going to evolve naturally. And it's going to take a very long time for you to learn your lessons and move on. And no one's pushing you to be in a hurry. So only if you, are willing to fast forward your evolution and adopt, the yogic sciences, then you have to understand that everything is going to change rapidly through your life. And by the time you are a few decades or so later, you would have lived the life of, of multiple lifetimes. right? In just a decade or a few decades. So I've been through so many stages of my life, and so many. It's just that I understood that I was evolving and changing very rapidly. So was it something that I created harm to myself? No. When I grew out of a relation, I grew out of it. I'm not going to stay in a relationship that I'm no longer satisfied or happy in, right? So it's not like I'm hopping in and hopping out of relationships, but sometimes you're growing out, right? And this is taking like over a decade to a decade, right? So there were two major, I would say, relationships in my life, and the first one lasted around 15 years, and the second one lasted, I would say, around 12 years, right? And before I decided, that, and it started not suddenly. I've grown out of it, but you started, year by year, you start drifting, going and growing, and the other person is not growing with you. So very important when you are following your heart, or especially you following the yogic sciences and practices, that if you have a life partner, right, that they are practicing along with you, so you both evolve together. If only one is practicing, the other is not practicing, I can promise you, guarantee, money back guarantee, neck on the block, right, that you're going to grow out of that relationship, right? You're going to grow yourself out as you're evolving, right? And that person is going to be still the same, nothing wrong with it, but you're going to be very different, and can you adapt and adjust? Yes, of course you can adapt and adjust, but as you're growing faster, and depending which school of thought and who's your yoga teacher, right? If you have a yoga teacher like me, I will evolve you fast, right? And you will very quickly grow out of that relationship, and eventually you're gonna not be able to, continue with it. You have to have an adaptable partner, and that partner must be someone who's practicing along with you, or has an adaptable nature, can adapt, to your changes. And usually people have a certain paradigm, and when you are performing yoga, you shift paradigms. So the adaptability does not work once you shift paradigms, and sometimes it could be that there could be some compromise, but when the paradigm shifts, starts going further and further to alternative paradigms, the distance becomes, too far apart. So yes, you are following your heart, you're following, as you evolving, through the practice of yoga sciences, evolving not in a negative way, you'll always be evolving in a positive way with yoga sciences. Your mind will be expanding, and you will want more, and the person will not be providing everything that you want. You feel you can get more from being away, and you are being restricted, and it's like you feel like you're being caged like a bird, and you need to be, to expand, and that person is not willing to expand with you, right? So in that situation, the relationship's also not going to work. So yes, you're following your heart, and you're following your what your heart dictates to you is going to evolve and change as you are advancing in the yoga sciences, right? So remember that, right? So I hope this information is helpful to you. Please be sure to like and subscribe, to my videos if you like the content. And I create a lot of content, so excuse me, don't put. You can switch the notification bell off. I wouldn't blame you, because I'm making so many videos, and it could be disturbing to you, or you can get used to it coming, because I subscribe to so many of my favorite channels, and I got used to all the every few minutes getting a notification of a different video that's coming up. So maybe there's a topic that's going to be of interest to you, just go into those topics when the notifications come, even from other channels as well. You don't have to necessarily switch the notifications off, right? So please also remember to take care of yourself.